Hey guys, welcome to the Unscrambled Faith podcast. I'm so excited and so blessed to have you here and hanging out with me this week. And I thought I'd go ahead and just talk about this right out the gate. Perhaps you guys are could definitely probably more likely relate to this, especially this year in the season of life. Um, it's interesting for me. I would have said otherwise this time of year that I would probably have some sort of Thanksgiving shirt on, which I technically do, but hold that thought. Because I also have my Christmas mug right now, which I think is hilarious. And hopefully, as you're watching this, you also have your favorite beverage of choice as well. I decided to go ahead and make a third cup of coffee for the day. And I say the day, even though technically we are currently going into the evening time. But I'm drinking it because, for one, I did not want to take the time just yet to make hot tea. And if you also probably hear me sniffling a little bit, I'm going to go and apologize for that as well. I'm actually, full transparency, getting over being sick. I was sick this last week and not feeling 100%. And to be honest, I didn't even know if I was going to have a voice this week, period, to be able to actually record and do this podcast. But I told myself I would give myself at least to the end of the week. And I'm trying to I just want to stay consistent for you guys and consistent, more importantly, for myself. So if you're like me, like I said, and to be also transparent again, we've got a little bit of Christmas happening in our house. Not the tree per se. I did put some Christmas decor up in our bedroom, and I find it rather humorous, to be honest, because I don't know, I'm not one to say that I like one holiday more than the other. I'm kind of a lover of like the entire calendar year, if I'm being honest. And I just think it's hilarious because I'm like, you know what? This tells me that I'm in a good place in my life when I can actually say that I have a multitude, a wide variety of decor and not just like one holiday and one season right now. And it's interesting too, even though, to be fair, this isn't like the theme of the podcast, but I just felt like I just had to get this off my chest a little bit. But I mean, like I said, hopefully you can relate. And I have a pumpkin plug-in warmer in my bathroom, which is funny to me because then you go into the bedroom and we have one of our Harry Potter holiday warmers set up. Which is so, it just tickles me. It's just hilarious. And then I go into the living room, and then there's sides of orange and pumpkin and clear twinkly lights. But you know what? That's okay because it makes me happy. And I love that I'm getting into a place in my life where I'm setting my own rules and my own boundaries. And you know what? If you're there too, then more power to you. If you have a tree in your house and it's not decorated yet, but yet you have pumpkin and fall decor outside, then more power to you. Because I say, do what we want, what we have time for, do it in small increments. I had been over for some time, putting pressure on myself, honestly, to get all the decor out. And like there's some kind of time crunch, right? Because I feel like in a better part of this year, I've really truly been asking myself in certain various situations that come up in my life, like, who am I doing this for? Am I doing it for me or am I doing it for somebody else? And my thing is, if I'm doing something for me, then great, cool, do what I got to do what makes me happy, do me. But on the other hand, if I'm doing it for somebody else, then I really should not put that much pressure on myself to get certain things done because as I'm finding, and it's okay with the fact that not everybody in my life is going to be on board and excited about certain things that I'm excited about, right? So my point to that is that if you're like myself and you've got a little bit of November and a little bit of December, or if you're still loving the Halloween spirit, which Halloween is honestly truly dear to my heart, but if you've got Halloween and you're like, you know what, we're turning this into a Halloween Christmas theme, well, that's okay because that's what Nightmare Before Christmas is all about, right? So yeah, do what you want to do, make your own rules. So yeah, but like I said, I getting over being sick this last week, and I'm feeling a whole lot better, which is great. I'm feeling a whole lot better. But like nasally, yeah, I don't think any of y'all want to hear that for like an hour, right? So this is going to be super sweet, to the point, worthy of your time, worthy of my time, worthy of your time, and just thanks so much for hanging out with me this week. So let's get into it. Today is Turkey Day. Whether you're watching the real-time video or if you're watching the replay, it's officially Turkey Day as I'm recording this right now. And I feel like you know how I roll, y'all. Like, if you've been watching me for a little bit now, sometimes I have topics at hand that I know I'm like, yeah, I'm going to talk about that the next week, or I'm going to talk about that today. But lately, I've been kind of letting it flow into maybe like the next day or the day before, the day of, and just kind of like, I don't know, like let God speak to my heart, let the universe speak to my mind, and just see what comes about, leading up to the time where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to record this week's podcast. Because, the beginning of doing this process a couple months ago, I'm not going to lie, I actually did I think I've shared it one podcast or two where I had a running list of topics that I was going to talk about. I still, to be honest, have them on my phone, but lately I find that I'm not really sticking to that as much as this kind of like serves as a guide. And it's okay to pivot. Like if I had a subject for this week that I was going to talk about, and that's okay because there's plenty of other time to talk about it. But this week, I feel like one topic in particular that'd be interesting to talk about is kind of something about like what I mentioned earlier, and that when we're doing things, are we doing it for someone else or are we doing it for ourselves? Okay. And I'll give you an example. So today, Turkey Day, Thanksgiving. So for those of y'all that celebrate Thanksgiving, for me particularly, I have noticed over the last couple of years how my thoughts and my opinions have kind of changed on this day entirely. So if you would have asked me what my opinion was on Thanksgiving about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said that it's a hard holiday because it reminds me of my late grandmother, and I celebrated it in my own little way. And I have gradually, over the last couple of years, I've kind of gotten to where I honestly enjoy spending more time by myself, even if it's with my husband, but just spending time in a smaller, close-knit setting where I have more of control. And I'll explain that a little bit more in just a little bit here. But I love the idea of being able to set like my own rules, my own tradition, my boundaries, and just do, sorry y'all, I'm sorry y'all. If I am itching my face a lot, it's because my allergies are still bothering me. So yeah, probably gonna apologize for that quite a lot for this podcast. And plus the fan's on, and it's like, I feel like I'm getting overstimmy, which is funny because that's exactly what I'm about to talk about, is not getting overstimulated in certain family functions. And here we are, getting overstimmy. So anywho, pivot. But as I was saying, the last couple of years, I feel like I've started to gain a little bit more control as far as what today looks like and what do I want to do. And over the last couple of years, it started as, well, I'm not doing this because it makes me sad and it brings up memories of my late grandmother, my Mimi, and I'd rather not, right? And so, that was my reasoning a couple years ago. But lately, I feel like I've noticed more and more that when I'm in larger family functions, when there's larger groups of people, I do get overstimulated. Whether it's the variety of food and the food's touching, I've just noticed there's a list of things that really get under my skin and bother me. Like if, for example, the details of like the food. If I see the food and there's like a large spread of it and it all looks like the same color, and it's bland, it just kind of like irks me, and it's a turn off for me, and I don't want to be around it. Not to mention the variety of conversations I'm not mentally prepared for, especially coming from somebody like myself that prefers staying at home most often than none, that I need a day or two before to charge my mental battery, for me to fill my cup up. It's almost like this whole it's this whole process, right, of like mentally and physically like preparing myself for this like one day. And it's wild to me how in such a short amount of time so much can be jam-packed. And I feel like that I would appreciate like the family and the togetherness and that's I guess really just the like just getting together and hanging out with people. I feel like if it was a more on a simple scale, so just maybe like a couple of people, I feel like I perhaps could give it a little bit more of a try. But over the last couple of years, I have found that I honestly have a better time and a better day if I just kind of go into it with ease and I treat it kind of like any other day, like on a weekend, where it's like I sleep in a little bit and I maybe stay in my PJs one year, or I'll, like today I dress comfortably, like I'm in like little biker shorts and a t-shirt, and I was able to wake up later and make some brunch, and I really didn't do a whole lot today, to be honest. I didn't want to do a whole lot. I watched a couple of Christmas movies. I love Christmas movies. I can honestly watch Christmas movies all year round. But I just kind of just did things on my terms. And you know what's interesting is I feel like getting through therapy, being in therapy the last couple of years has really helped me to find more of like my voice, because before that had this huge stressful moment of like, I don't want to do this, right? I don't want to show up. I want to stay home. I want to check in with myself the morning of or the night before and be like, how do I feel? Do I want to show up? Do I want to do my own thing? And I remember there was, for a very long time, feeling super guilty. And then through therapy, it was kind of like questioning, like, why am I feeling guilty? Why do I feel bad about this? Why do I feel like this? And what I realized was that it wasn't necessarily like feeling guilty and like letting myself down. It was just the act of like having to not only like stand up for myself, but make a decision for myself and advocate for my mental health and what works best for me in the moment. I feel like more times than none, especially specifically when it comes to holidays and traditions, that there's a lot of pressure that gets forced on a certain individuals, that they're like, come on, show up to Thanksgiving. It'll mean a lot to, Aunt Claire, or, whoever the relative is, whether it's a in-law or a parent, niece, nephew, you name it. And I feel like there's a specific person or persons that vocally put so much pressure on individuals showing up for somebody else. They're like, it'll mean a lot to them. But my thing is like, okay, granted, I would hear someone out if this was in reference to maybe perhaps somebody that lived further away from family and didn't visit with their family a whole lot, and their certain family members were missing, like authentically missing them, right? See that? That's why this podcast is not going to be that long today. Because of that, guys. Yeah. So, but as I was saying, that's different, right? The circumstances are different. Whereas I feel like if it's a specific person and they live further away and the family is like, I ultimately miss them, I want to spend time with them, I get that. But if you live near family members that you see all the time, or you live really close by, why is there so much pressure on one day to get together and spend time together, when in theory you could actually set aside and make the time to hang out with them like any other time of year, right? So that's my thing. And one thing that I've also learned over the last couple of years is so different for somebody like myself, that like, because don't get me wrong, like I'm continuously putting the work in on therapy. Like that's never going to be done, right? No one's perfect. I'm not perfect. Definitely not fixed, right? Like there are things that I'm still working through. I'm sure that there's more to come that I haven't yet to, come forth in the, my brain and my past memories, right? I'm sure there's tons of things in the future to look forward to work on. But the amount of work that I have put in the last couple of years has definitely changed, not like my way of seeing things, but how I see myself, how I see others, how I process certain things. And because of that, makes it a whole lot harder for me to be in the room with individuals that perhaps have yet to get to a place to be able to work through their stuff, if that makes sense. And it's really difficult because, especially I feel like if I'm with my immediate family, then psychologically there's all these things that start triggering and coming up for me, and memories and, good things and not so good things. And And then I feel like that there's certain like topics that were taboo, right? Like we can't talk about. And um, I just feel like I can't ultimately like be myself around them. And I'm a more calm, more at peace, more go with the flow. Um, I don't like drama. I try to stay away from individuals that are going to like gossip and say negative things. And it's one thing to have like a deep discussion, but I want to have like that's it. Like I want to have in-depth, deep discussions, meaningful discussions, not surface level. Yeah, and I just want to ultimately be myself, and I want to be days like this. I just want to be quieter. Honestly, I want to be quiet. Which is actually I know it's kind of ironic because I am recording my podcast, but I'm not having to hold and save space for buku's amount of people. And it's hard because I feel like when it comes to like holidays, especially like myself, I'm married to someone who has a rather large family. And I didn't necessarily grow up with that. Like yes, I have aunts and uncles and, cousins and such on both sides of my family with my mom and my dad. However, I don't spend hardly any time with either side of them anymore. And we've all kind of grown apart and I hardly know some of them. And, it's like I know who they are, know their names, but I don't have like recent memories with them, right? And that's okay. Like I don't need that. I'm okay. However, that's quite the opposite. Like with my husband and his family, like they're really close and they like doing things together and they like making memories together, which is really great. But that's not really like in my comfort zone anymore. And that's where I started getting overstimulated, right? Because I didn't necessarily grow up around that. And it's a lot. Like I said, it's a lot because, when you have especially if you're someone who does get overstimulated quickly, because if you take into account like all the different smells, you're not sure of anything that you're walking into. There's ultimately hardly any way to prepare to be in any kind of situation like that. And that's where I feel like it is nice whenever someone does host a gathering of some sorts, like in their own home, because that's like your safe space, right? Like that's where you're comfortable, you're at peace, you're in your home, people are coming to you. But where like irks me, it gets under my skin is like when I have to go to like somebody else's house, especially someone's house that are like I haven't been to in a while or I don't go to as often. There's just like this whole rabbit hole, I feel like, of all the things to like think about and plan for, and then it's just so ridiculously exhausting, because then you're like, okay, well I can't talk about these certain things because so and so is going to be there, right? And then you're like, well, what should I wear? And there's all these different types of foods, and I don't know what to expect meal wise. Am I going to like anything? Is it going to be overstimulating to me? All the different smells, and then not to mention the multitude of conversations that you're having, right? Because every corner that you turn, there's someone to say hi to, and there's someone's hand to shake, and there's someone to have small talk with, right? And it's just like, because like the number one pet peeve for me, y'all, is small talk. I cannot stand small talk. To me, it's like words are precious. Life is precious. We already know that, right? Life is precious, but words are precious. And I'm very much like a lyricist. As much as I respect and I love like accompaniment of music, and I love and respect musicians, I'm all about the words. Break down the words to me. And whenever I'm having a conversation with somebody, and you may or may not notice this even on this podcast, there's a lot of times where I'll pause or I'll look off like in the distance. I know I have a habit of doing that, but it's because I want to make sure that everything that I'm saying, not necessarily calculated, but I just want to make sure that I'm being my authentic self and that it's something that is truly coming from the heart. And I'm just not going to word vomit or just talk just to talk. And I used to be like that. And I knew that there was a certain point in my life where I just didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to have more meaningful conversations. I wanted to learn more from others. So it's okay. This is my little spiel, my little rant to you guys this holiday season. It's okay if you want to set new boundaries and say, no, you know what? I'm going to stay home this year. Or how about you guys come to me? Like, if that's you, that's okay too. Or if you want to make your own traditions, make your own new traditions. And that's where I feel like I've been the last year or two, is making my own decisions and making choices for myself and like what serves me, what works for me. Because to be honest, if in theory I did show up to these family functions, I wouldn't be necessarily doing it for me. I would be doing it for my spouse. I'll be doing it for my husband. And even though there are parts in our marriage that I do want to show up for him and I do want to support him, I also at the same time have to keep in mind my self-respect and my peace of mind and what's going to serve me as well. Because at the end of the day, I have to go to bed with my decisions, right? Like I have to deal with the consequences at the next day. And if you're anything like myself and you get overstimulated in certain situations like that, you'll know that after any family function, then the pretty much the night of or the day after, it's almost like you're so wiped out that you're like, cancel everything. I can't do anything the next day. I have to just rot on this couch, rot on the chair, in the bed, and just reboot to get myself back into life. And I don't want to do that anymore. So, like, for example, I knew within the last day or two, if not honestly before that, that I didn't want to do much today. I didn't want to have to like overthink an outfit and put it together and bounce from one house to another. And I was like, you know what? I just want to slow today down. I don't want to rush it. And the thing is that I didn't completely ignore the entire day, like altogether. Like I thought it was really nice because for a little while, I'm obsessed, y'all, with like the YouTube, like, screensavers that you can go to now. So if you haven't done this, go to YouTube and they have like fall scape, autumn scapes, where it's like these digitized like videos where it gives you these beautiful backdrops and, like harmonious music and sounds to pair up like with the backdrop. So there's like Christmas scenes, and I even did it for Halloween, but right now I'm loving the autumn ones with the falling leaves because like my ultimate dream house is, my big goal for myself is to have like a lake house one day with a wraparound porch that has like a fireplace and there's like hills or mountains in the background. But they have different videos like that on YouTube, right? So I pulled that up today as I was sipping on my coffee. Probably like, let's be honest, like my second coffee of the day because this was my third. And I pulled up that little video on YouTube, and that's why I started reflecting back on the memories of Thanksgiving, like with my late grandmother, and how nice it was, and the things that we would do, and the nostalgia behind it. And because to me, like that's what's the most important to me. Granted, it's great to make new memories, but I love like the idea that I can take this day and like any other day and make it specifically and cater it to like how I want it to be, right? Like how do I want to show up for this day? So that's my little spiel. But to tie into as well, reflecting on the things aside from the holidays, reflecting on the things that we do or don't want to do when it comes to questioning, what am I doing this for someone else or am I doing this for myself? And I think that's a matter of pretty much everything that we do in this life, right? Because like, for example, I have a team of consultants of friends, and with that team, this year, I had told myself that I didn't necessarily want to send out like shout out happy mail per se. I wanted to do something that was going to be more duplicatable. So I love working in Canva. So this last year I went in Canva, and up until this month, I pretty much had created an image on Canva, sent it out to my team, shouted them out for their sales. But going into like this last month, I knew after coming back from some training that I did with some friends out of state that I wanted to shake things up in my business, specifically with my team, and I wanted to do something different. So instead of shouting them out for sales, because to be honest, sales comes natural. As long as if you're a small business owner, if you're like myself and you work for an MLM type company, sales naturally are going to come to you. As long as you're planting the seeds, as long as you're networking, as long as you're meeting new customers, as long as you're giving good customer service to your current customer base, sales will naturally come as long as you're being consistent. And that's going to look different for everybody, right? So aside from sales, I wanted to find a way to be able to lift them up, inspire them, congratulate them on certain things that were just outside of sales. Because what I want to give praise and applaud and congratulate them on are things that I want to see be duplicated, right? And like I said, as long as you're doing these things that I'm about to dig into, then sales will naturally come, right? And so I wanted to just find something other than sales. So I took the time this last month, and I started looking at like their social media accounts, and if I don't follow them on socials, then I maybe perhaps some of them I know that I spoke to like one-on-one, and I was like, hey, what is your goal for the month? Aside from sales, aside from Scentsy in general, aside from your business, what is your ultimate goal for the month? And aside from sales, some of them, like for example, one of them had told me, I'm wanting to turn around my like eating habits, and I want to start working out more. So I thought that was so awesome. I wrote their name down. I put their name on my phone on my notes. I wrote down what their goal was, right? So, and then I know for another example, one individual had told me that I want to, oh gosh, what did she say? I want to spend at least one day a week doing something for myself, filling my cup up. I thought that was so cool. Others, if I did follow their social media accounts, I did perhaps see perhaps that they were not being intentional like with their business, but they were being intentional with showing up and being a bright light for others. They were sharing positive quotes. They were sharing some of their favorite things. Even if it was like non-business related, I definitely wanted to draw attention to those that were being consistent showing up on their social pages, because at the end of the day, y'all, it's not just about the sales. It's not just about the product that we're selling. It's about who you are and showing up and sharing with the world what makes you you, and giving your followers, giving your customers a little bit of a personal insight into your life. Now, granted, I know some want a little bit more privacy when it comes to like maybe their kids or grandkids. But what I mean by letting your people in and what's who you are and things that you're going through is you could show up and do that in different ways. Like, you don't necessarily have to have like this 2 or 3 paragraph of explaining like the hardships that you're going through in your life or where you've been and your story per se, but you can give like a little snippet, or you can share like a positive quote. Or sometimes, I mean, to be honest, it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive quote. It could be a music video or a lyric to a song or a poem or a quote in general that may describe something that you're going through. Because here's the thing, is that people need people at the end of the day. Even if you're like myself, and I spend more of my days, which I enjoy, I spend more of my days by myself because I enjoy my own company. I also know at the end of the day, at the end of the week, that I do need to actually connect with others, and I do need to network, especially with the line of work that I'm in. I do need to network. I need to put my name out there. I do need to meet new people. But I feel like it's all about balance, right? Because I would much prefer, like I said, I enjoy my own company. I can honestly be one of those that lives in the middle of nowhere and you only see come to town like once a month. Maybe once every 2 months, let's be honest. But people, at the end of the day, people need people. We need connection, and we need that physical touch, hugs, holding hands, high fives, eye contact, right? That kind of thing, that intimacy, that connection at the end of the day. And I feel like that even if you're not sharing like per se like your product that your company sells or that you sell, if you're a small business owner that makes homemade products, you can still show up in a way of just sharing like what you and your family are doing for the day. Like today, for example, it's Turkey Day. So you could share through this week what you're thankful for, right? Like for me, throughout from today into the end of this week, I plan on sharing like the multitude of things that I'm thankful for, whether it's my pets, my spouse, the work that I'm doing with myself, my friends, my community, my team, my customers, and the list goes on and on. And that in itself is still networking and working your business without actually sharing like the product that you sell. And I think that's what at the end of the day makes us not only individuals, but it's going to help you stand out more. And again, it's going to help you build that trust, love, and connection, and that relationship, and bond it together with the people that are following you that maybe perhaps don't really necessarily, since before that time, know you like that. And so going into that, with that being said, I did send out the happy mail to my team, right? And I had this moment to where I didn't get any feedback from them. I believe I sent out, I think it was 33 pieces of mail, and I didn't hear one thing back from them. Now, granted, if you just heard that statement, then most people would be like, I can't believe that like nobody responded back. Like, I can't believe not one person. And perhaps if maybe you could relate to that as well, and you're just like, yep, right there with you, sister. I completely understand. But I'm gonna tell you what, guys. I'm gonna tell you what. I had a come to Jesus moment. And I say that because yes, I had my pity party, right? The day of, or the day after I sent everything out, especially because I knew a lot of my team members are local. I had my pity party because I did feel bad that like nobody like got back with me. But the truth of the matter is that I had to ask myself, okay, Megan, Yes, I'm talking in third person. I was like, Megan, did you send that mail out to your team to feel good about yourself? Or did I send the mail out to help them feel good? And the truth of the matter is that I had a moment where I was like, maybe perhaps I did send it to make myself feel better, especially when I was feeling bad that like no one got back with me, no one thanked me. But the next day I was like, you know what? That is not why I did that. I didn't do that because to make myself feel better or to get clout, so to speak. But I did that because I wanted to build them up. I wanted to be, because I know what it's like to not have that positive light in my life. And in return, I wanted to be a positive light in their life. And I wanted them to know that not only do they matter, but showing up and doing what they're doing, no matter what that looks like, matters. It all matters. They matter. And I wanted them to specifically know that. And with that being said, it was a moment of, okay, I'm doing this for them, for the greater good, to lift them up. Therefore, I don't need any recognition from them. And so I had a little bit of a moment, like I said, but I feel like that can be applied to pretty much anything that we do or don't do in life. Are we choosing to show up? Are we choosing to do these things because we're doing it for somebody else, or are we doing it for ourselves? And I feel like that it's like a pendulum. I feel like that they can go both ways, because we can do things and show up in life and do things specifically for ourselves, and that is 100% okay. I think in the past, if I would have said that out loud, I'd been like, well, that's a really selfish thing that she's decided to do that for herself. Like, how selfish could she be? But it's not selfish, because it depends upon the intent behind it, right? The intent behind the decision making. And I feel like if we can go back to what I was talking about in reference to this week and the holiday season, if you're choosing to stay in, if you're choosing not to go from family to family and drag your kids from family to family group, and you're staying home and you're making your own memories, or heck, if you're throwing it all out the window and you're going on vacation somewhere tropical or just the opposite of where you're currently residing in, that's okay. That's okay, because life is short, and it's important for us, again, to set boundaries, have fun, make our own memories, and just do you at the end of the day. Don't worry about what Susie Q's doing down the road. Don't worry about what the family's going to say. Like, show up. And if you're one of those that loves being at family get-togethers and loves the memories and being in the middle of that, that's perfectly fine too. That's okay. That's okay. I feel like we put so much pressure on not only ourselves, because trust me when I say I'm speaking to myself as well, preaching to the choir, but I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves, but we also, I feel like we get in our heads too much, because again, I feel like that once we start establishing like not only our boundaries, but what we want to do, and we preface it to those around us. Like, I think it's important for us to let our spouses know, let our friends know, like, hey, get prepared, because this is a decision that I'm making this year. It's important to have people in your corner. They may not necessarily understand the decisions that you're making or the things that you want to do, no matter what that looks like right now in your life. But that's okay. They don't have to understand. But I feel like it is important to, you don't necessarily have to have like a dragged out reasoning. You don't have to have a dragged out like a discussion, or you don't have to explain, right? You don't have to have this huge explanation or reasoning of why you're doing what you're doing. But I feel like it also is important to like let certain trusted individuals that are in like your close-knit circle of people in on the decisions that you're making, right? Like, for example, I remember it was like a year or two ago, and it was when I had first decided, I was like, I told my therapist, I was like, enough is enough. I was like, don't want to show up for the holidays this year. I'm tired of the drama. I'm tired of just the unexpected, of getting overstimulated, all the things. Y'all heard my soapbox earlier. I'm not going to drag y'all into that again. But you'll know how I feel about it. And so I remember I told her, I said, my mom takes Thanksgiving very seriously. My family didn't celebrate Christmas growing up. She takes Thanksgiving very seriously. There's a lot of memories and nostalgia tied into Turkey Day. And I told my therapist, I said, I feel like I'm going to have to tell her like a month or two in advance for her to be able to have enough time to process that I'm not coming to Thanksgiving. And it's nothing, even though she did take it personal at first, it's when you're telling somebody something like that, it's nothing against them. You're just vocalizing and standing up for yourself. And I was standing up for myself and just letting her know, like, hey, I'm going to give you some time to process this, because I did know how much it meant to her. But at the same time, I'm not going to show up and punish myself and put myself into feeling bad or whatever, whatever I'm going through at that time, I'm not going to put myself into a situation where I'm going to have to take some deep recovery time the next day or that night just to make somebody happy for like 20, 30 minutes, right? And the thing is, one thing that I remember I explained to my family was that I can see them anytime. I live so ridiculously close to my parents, and although I do realize that that specific day does mean a lot to my mom, I also had to keep in mind, like, my mental health is important, my physical self is important, and sometimes it's okay to put ourselves first. I'm giving you permission to put yourself first. So with that being said, I hope you'll have an incredible week. I hope that no matter what this week or this upcoming next month looks like for you, do things your way. Make new memories, make new traditions, set boundaries, set a boundary, no matter what that looks like. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me this week. And as always, don't forget to unscramble your faith and find some clarity in the chaos. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like, comment, and share this specific video with somebody that maybe perhaps is a little bit on the struggle bus this holiday season.